Hey guys, welcome to another video. I apologize that it's been so long since my last video. For those who don't really follow me on social media or anything, I did intend to do a Doctor Strange 2 review back when that came out. Unfortunately, my schedule just got insanely busy. Never really got around to filming the review. It would have been way after I saw the film and things like that. So for those who are wondering where that video might have gone or have went, I unfortunately never made such a video just because of my schedule being so busy. So unfortunately, no review for that one. But just quickly, it's a really good film. If you haven't seen that yet, I do recommend seeing Doctor Strange 2. But let's go on to the reason why you're here, and that is my review for Top Gun Maverick. This is a film that's been pushed around for the past 2 years. I know for years and years and years they've been talking about making this film. Tom Cruise himself has just been really kind of pushing Paramount Pictures to make this film. Back when Tony Scott was still alive, I know he really wanted to do another Top Gun at one point. That never kind of came to fruition, unfortunately. But we finally got Joseph Kosinski from Tron Legacy fame to direct this film. Like I said, it took over almost over 30 years to get this film made. It actually did take over 30 years to get this film made. But in this film, you guys, we find out over the years that Maverick, Tom Cruise's character, Pete Mitchell, for those who don't know what his real name is outside of Maverick, um, he has been testing jets for the military and other places that are basically about to release jets and things like that. And he's been doing that since the events of the first film. Something happens though while testing one of the jets. It's not really very safe. Other pilots haven't been able to get this one jet working the way that they wanted to. Uh, Maverick tests it out. Obviously, it works fine. But he does something that kind of puts his career in jeopardy for a couple of days. But he kind of has luck coming his way when the Top Gun Academy calls him back in. They want him to instruct some young fighter pilots for a mission that is really dangerous, and they kind of need the best of the best in order to make sure that this mission can go as safely as possible, and that all these fighter pilots who are recruited for this can hopefully come home safely. And so they ask Maverick to do this, and based off of his recent events at his job and how badly it went with another instructor who was played by Ed Harris, he obviously takes the job right away. Even though he kind of had a falling out with Top Gun, you'll find out later in the movie that kind of prevented him from going back to the Top Gun Academy over all these years. And so basically, things are going okay. Um, the fighter pilots are really not kind of connecting with some of the ideas that Maverick is trying to teach them. There's certain things that they're doing in training that could put their lives in jeopardy if they're not careful. And so Maverick has to teach them to be better fighter pilots, even though they are considered the best of the best. So that way they can hopefully come home safely because it is such a dangerous mission they're being sent on. And so over the course of this film, Maverick has to teach these students that way they can go through with this really dangerous mission. His friend Goose from the first film has a son here. We briefly see the son in the first film, obviously, as a little boy. He's a full grown man now, also a fighter pilot like Goose was, and he's played by Miles Teller. And there's obviously a thing with them where Maverick kind of has an emotional attachment because of the things he thought he did to Goose in the first movie. And being that this is this man's son, obviously he wants to make sure that the past doesn't come back to haunt him and things like that. So there's a whole thing with him and Rooster, which is his fighter pilot name, that they go over the course of this film. And so there's a whole thing with that. So over the course of this film, though, Maverick has to teach these new recruits all these dangerous stunts so that they could succeed with this dangerous mission that they're about to be carried out with. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed Top Gun Maverick a lot. It's a really great film. There's a ton of things about it that really represent how to do a movie sequel, how to get a sequel right. With all these years of pushbacks and delays and all that kind of stuff, I think this is definitely worth the wait. I think this is definitely the Top Gun sequel that we were hoping to get this entire time. So let's kind of go over the positives and negatives. First and foremost, my biggest positive with this movie is the aerial footage is absolutely amazing. I think I did hear somewhere behind the scenes that they spent hundreds of hours getting the aerial footage correctly, and you can definitely tell there's tons of amazing footage here. I think they did something called live footage, where it's basically an actual fighter pilot, or in some cases, Tom Cruise, obviously with safer areas and things like that, really doing the stunts themselves, really going out there, really trying to put CGI on the back burner, only use CGI if they absolutely have to, if a shot is extremely hard to get. But you can definitely tell there was hundreds of hours spent getting the aerial footage as real as possible, as live as possible, and it really paid off in this film. The action is absolutely wonderful. I think the reason why you're seeing so many great reviews for this film is because the aerial footage just is that good in this movie. Um, it really is incredible stuff. The aerial footage alone is worth the price of admission to see this movie alone. I really like what they did with Maverick's story here. I like how he kind of got what he wanted. He kind of wanted to test, jets and things like that. Didn't really want to become an admiral like we find out what happened with Iceman or with some of his other recruits that were in the first Top Gun movie with him. I really just enjoyed his story. I enjoyed finding out what Maverick's been up to, finding out what the next phase of his life is going to be. They explore his second relationship after the events of the first film. He really hasn't gotten married or had kids or anything, but he is still kind of slowly pursuing relationships over the years. And so this film explores kind of a different person that he gets to date and stuff like that. I just felt really invested in the man's story. I felt invested in what Maverick was up to and what his current stage in life was, and him trying to be an instructor again. And the film just does a wonderful job with that. I also liked the Maverick and Rooster dynamic whenever the two of them are on screen together. There's just a lot of scenes where you can definitely tell they're playing off of what happened to Goose in the first movie and how that affected Rooster, how that affected Maverick over the years, how certain things, certain triggers cause things to go on in Maverick's brain that makes him think about Goose, makes him think, what could I have done differently so that Goose could still be alive today? And so the whole Rooster Maverick dynamic I thought was very well handled in this film. Whenever the two of them share screen time, and it's regarding the past, regarding Rooster's chance to show the Top Gun Academy that he is one of the best of the best. Whenever the two of them are on screen and involves the two of them in any way, shape, or form, the film does it in a very beautiful way that I thought was very well handled. I like the new character of Penny Benjamin. She's played by Jennifer Connelly in this film. I believe she's mentioned throughout the first Top Gun. She was kind of this unachievable person that the Top Gun recruits had a hard time dating. Like, she was very picky, I think, back in the day of who she was willing to date and stuff like that. So I think that's who this Penny Benjamin character was supposed to be. Obviously, way later in life, she had a kid, and her marriage didn't work out and stuff like that. So she's kind of single like Maverick is. So it felt appropriate that the two of them were kind of dating over the course of this film because they were roughly in the same stage of life as one another was and things like that. So I thought the relationship between her and Tom Cruise I thought was really well handled. Very much in the spirit of how the Kelly McGillis Tom Cruise relationship played out in the first movie, though much more appropriate, much more age appropriate this time around. No more 20 plus years age difference or anything like that here. So I thought the relationship between the two of them was very effective for the most part. Hans Zimmer did the score in this movie, and Lady Gaga does kind of the final song of the movie as the end credits play. Both did a terrific job. I thought the score for this film was absolutely terrific. It was in the spirit of the first film's score while also kind of doing something a little bit different. Obviously, Lady Gaga did a different kind of song than what Kenny Loggins did with Danger Zone and things like that. I don't think they used the You Lost That Loving Feeling song in this movie. I think they kind of stayed away from that, but they brought back some other songs and tunes from the previous film that made this film feel like a Top Gun film and things like that. So I thought the score for this film, once again done by the brilliant Hans Zimmer, was very effective in this movie. Val Kilmer's Iceman does return in this film. He has a very limited role, though. I will let you know off the bat. Very effective, though. There's a scene with him and Maverick that is extremely effective. They definitely play off of Val Kilmer's real life health issues in this movie. They definitely incorporated that into his character. Though very heartbreaking to watch, it's a very effective scene. I won't even say any more about it just because I do want you to experience it the way that I did, which is completely clean going into the movie. But I do want to let you guys know that the character of Iceman is in this film, and when he does show up, when we do actually physically see him, it's a very moving scene, and I thought it was very, very effective for the film they were trying to make. For my negatives of Top Gun Maverick, though, I thought some of the character development could have been a little bit better handled on some of the new fighter pilots. Though we get to know some of them, though we really do feel invested in a lot of them, I would say for sure Hangman and Rooster and Phoenix are probably the three that we feel the most invested in. I think characters like Harvard and Yale, and I think Payback was another one, and Coyote was another one, I want to say. Some of the characters that really don't get as involved with the mission, I feel like we don't really get as well to know as some of the other ones. And yeah, you got to dedicate screen time to the characters that are going to count to your story the most. But there is a lot of scenes, maybe kind of like the first Top Gun, where we didn't get to know every single fighter pilot in that movie, but um, some of the new fighter pilots this time around, I felt like we didn't get to know them as well this time around. I would say the ones that are most crucial to the mission that they get sent on, we get to know the best, like I said, like Hangman and Phoenix and Rooster. But the ones outside of those fighter pilots I just mentioned, I feel like could have had some more development, maybe cut back on some of the relationship stuff between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly, because though effective, I wouldn't have mind if a couple of minutes of that got cut to make room for getting the fighter pilots more developed and things like that. So by the time they do go on this mission, we care even more about them. Because some of the stuff that they do with them, you care about them because the situations they get thrown in are very intense, and thus we care about them in that regard. But as the characters themselves, I thought some of them, specifically the smaller ones that don't get a lot to do in the movie, could have used some more development in the film. I also thought the Ed Harris slash drone subplot that the film introduces us to pretty much right away into the film does get completely dropped off at one point. We don't even see Ed Harris's character again until close to the end credits. And it's just one of those things where it's like, why bother introducing it if you're not going to follow through with it? Because the second that Tom Cruise goes back to the Top Gun Academy, that subplot gets completely thrown out the window, and they completely focus on a different mission that's different than what the Ed Harris's character was talking about to Tom Cruise earlier on in the movie. So I thought, why introduce this subplot if you're not going to follow through with it? So that aspect of the film I thought could have been better as well. Either cut the scene out, make the scene something different, or make the scene feel like it fits into the movie that you're about to bring us on as a journey. But overall, I'm going to give Top Gun Maverick a 9 out of 10. I think it's a brilliant film. I think it's an excellent sequel. Like I said, there's some truly incredible aerial footage in this film that I think a lot of people are really going to like. I think it's really going to be beloved footage over the years. Maverick's story has continued in a very beautiful, awesome way. The Maverick Rooster dynamic is great. Penny Benjamin is a great new character to the roster of Top Gun. Hans Zimmer's score and Lady Gaga's song to the film are brilliant, and Val Kilmer's involvement is just really, really strong here. But like I said, more character development felt needed in some of those smaller fighter pilot characters, and the Ed Harris drone subplot probably could have been dropped just because they really had nothing to do with the film itself. So 9 out of 10 for me. It's an excellent film. I highly recommend seeing Top Gun Maverick. It's an excellent example of how to handle a sequel, especially a sequel that has been in the making and has been pushed back by so many years. 9 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend it.